Hello and welcome to the Gradcracker webinar with the Intellectual Property Office, or IPO, and our final webinar of this season, and what a wonderful way to end. My name is Sophie, I'm a director at Gradcracker and have been with the business for 13 years. I've been working with the IPO for the last 11 years, and I'm really excited for you all to find out more about them today. I'm also joined by my co-director Jessica, who I'm sure many of you will recognise from previous webinars and the many university presentations she delivers. During today's webinar, our aim is to find out more about the IPO, their opportunities and what life is like working there. Starting with our contact Dom, the talent acquisition specialist, will have an introduction to the organisation and their opportunities. Claire, one of the group patent heads and her second time joining a Gradcracker webinar with the IPO, will then be telling us all about the life cycle of a patent application so we can get a full understanding of the organisation. The rest of the panel from the IPO will then talk to you about their educational background, their day-to-day roles, and what life is like working at the IPO and their future plans. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll discuss the recruitment process and give you some hints and tips on how to be successful in securing a role with the IPO, including some of the individual experiences of our graduates. We've also had some questions submitted by you, our students, so these have been incorporated as well. Okay, so let's get started. Dom, thank you for joining us. Could you tell everyone about the IPO and what it does?
Yeah, so thanks for having us. The IPO is a government agency that forms part of the civil service. We are the UK's official government body responsible for overseeing and protecting intellectual property rights, and this includes the examination and registration of designs, trademarks, and copyright, and also what we'll be mostly focusing on today, which is patents. So simply put, the IPO helps protect great ideas and creations. We're also proud to have been recognised by the Women in Tech Awards recently. So we won Best Public Sector category in 2024 and also Best Employer for Training in 2025. We're located mostly at Newport, and colleagues there benefit from on-site facilities, including a nursery, a fully equipped gym, coffee shop and canteen.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Dom. Yeah, the offices sound incredible, which is it's always great. So can we talk a little bit now about the roles that you're recruiting for each year and those that are currently advertised on your Gradcracker Company Hub? Because you've got 3 different opportunities available this year, haven't you?
Yeah, so we're doing our yearly recruitment for patent examiners, and we tend to split this by specialism. So this year we have 3 live adverts. One is computing and telecoms. So the full title is Associate Patent Examiner, Computing and Telecoms. And you don't have to cover all of the criteria and all the technology that they're looking for in that advert. As long as you have technical expertise in some of the areas listed, then it's worth applying. So for that one, for example, we're looking for people with experience in cryptography, encryption, network security, Wi-Fi, amongst other areas. The second advert is Associate Patent Examiner, Physics, Engineering, Maths, or a similar STEM subject. And the third area we're looking at is Associate Patent Examiner, Chemistry and Biotechnology. So there we're looking for people with experience of electrochemistry, hydrogen fuel cell, and yeah, so it's all listed on the advert, but if you fulfill any of those areas, it's worth applying.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Dom. And the roles are closing on the 18th of February, is that right?
Yes, I believe so. I think the computing and telecoms closes slightly later.
Yeah.
But I can double check that now for you, actually.
Yeah, no, 23rd of Feb. I've just double
Okay.
checked whilst we were talking. Yeah, so 18th of February and the 23rd of February. So there's still some good time to apply after watching today's webinar, isn't there? And each year you recruit into slightly different areas, don't you? Depending on what you're looking for each year at the IPO, because you have lots of different specialisms that for students to work in each year, don't you?
So as you can imagine, a patent could be for literally almost anything. So we need lots of different people with lots of different technical expertise, and this can change year on year based on the patents that we see incoming.
Absolutely. So every year you'll be looking for a slightly different type of people, but those 3 roles that you've just mentioned cover so many different STEM backgrounds and STEM degrees that really there's kind of an opportunity there for most STEM students. So thank you very much for that, Dom. Touching upon working arrangements now, because obviously you've mentioned about how amazing the offices are and the great things that you have there. So, do you offer hybrid working? Is it different for students and graduates who just join you? How does that work?
Yeah, so for these patent examiner positions, for the first 6 months, you would be working for a minimum of 4 days a week on site. This is
Hmm.
to allow the new cohort to learn from colleagues as they embark on their career and also really get to know the legal side of patent examining. So you would
Hmm.
bring all the technical knowledge, but we would then train you on the legal side. You don't need to know anything about intellectual property law before you join us.
Yeah.
But then after those 6 months, you would move to our regular hybrid policy, which is 20% of your working days per month.
Hmm.
So if you have sick leave or holiday, that would be deducted from your total number of working days.
Hmm.
It usually, depending on the number of working days you have, it would be about 4 to 5 days a month minimum in office.
Hmm. Okay, great. So yeah, that first 6 months, it's really important for you to
Mm.
be on site, getting to know all your colleagues, getting to know the team, getting to know the role itself. So that's really good to know. Thank you, Dom. I'm going to come across to Claire now, who is one of the patent group heads, to talk more about what the IPO does and what patent examining involves. So Claire, thank you so much for joining us again. Give us an overview of what a patent examiner does and the life cycle of a patent application coming in and what happens next.
Okay, no problem, Sophie. Okay, so for those who don't know, so a patent is essentially a bargain between like the inventor and the Crown. So
Mhm.
basically, if the inventor gives us a full disclosure of their invention, the Crown will grant a limited monopoly to stop other people like copying their ideas and their invention.
Mhm.
So this monopoly lasts 20 years and it requires annual renewal fees from the fourth year onwards.
Mhm.
Um, so the main point about the patent system is this sort of system that helps promote innovation
Mhm.
because inventors will share their details of their inventions and then other inventors, STEM graduates, can build on other people's inventions and come up with their own inventions. So it just stimulates innovation. So the job of a patent examiner is to look at a patent application and use their STEM background and their legal training, which Don mentioned they will get at the IPO. And they use both of these to work out whether a patent application can be granted.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of requirements for a patent. So it has to be new and inventive. It has to be capable of industrial application and it can't be excluded. So excluded things are things like computer programs, method of treatment or diagnosis, anything that's contrary to public policy or morality.
Mhm.
When a patent reaches the office, there's a number of checks that have to happen before it reaches the patent examiner. These checks are done mostly by our formalities team,
Mhm.
just checking that the right forms have been filed, the correct fees have been paid,
Mhm.
that the application is capable of being reproduced for like publication. Is screened to make sure there's no security concerns.
Yeah.
And then if all that's okay, it's given a filing date.
Mhm.
And that's the day that the office will have received documents.
Mhm.
Then the application is sent to a patent examiner to be searched. And that's usually, the search happens no later than about 6 months after the filing date. So the examiner's job is to read the invention, understand how it works, and then use various search tools that we have in-house to look for other patents, articles, books, paragraphs, YouTube videos,
Mhm.
anything that can describe the same invention or something similar.
Mhm.
It's essentially like playing like invention snap. The patent examiner will then communicate the results to the applicant. And the applicant is usually a patent attorney, although we do have private applicants who are not represented.
Mhm.
At 18 months old, the application will be published, so it's out in the open, in the public domain. Applicant can withdraw at that point, or they can withdraw before publication if they don't want people seeing what their application is.
Mhm.
And then basically it's just then a kind of go between the examiner and the attorney to kind of get it to a point where it's grantable. So it has to be
Mhm.
clear and concise, and all of the everything needs to be ticked basically. Yeah, so there's a lot of roles, like I said, in the office, formalities, patent examiner, and all of them contribute to the filing to grant process.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Claire. So, from a STEM student's point of view, this role really includes a huge amount of technical expertise because you're dealing with brand new technologies effectively coming through across a range of different areas, as well as then having the opportunity to learn the law and working with a huge range of different types of people. This is why I find it also exciting and, a brilliant opportunity, because there's very few professions where you'd have that mixture of still being able to have such a technical role, but also with the kind of commercial sides of things as well. Yeah, and we're going to come now, I think, over to Jess to find out more about day-to-day life and some of the things that you've all been working on. So thank you both, Dom and Claire, for that introduction. And Jess, over to you.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Claire, and thank you, Dom. Joe, I'm going to come to you. So I want to come back to you. So for the audience that may not know, Joe was on last year's webinar. So you're not so much of a recent graduate now. You've got a little bit of experience doing what you do. But if we could just take you back a sec, and if you could tell the audience where you went to university, what you studied, and what your current role is at the IPO.
Yeah, so I went to Cardiff University. I studied there for 8 years. Did my integrated masters in physics and then a PhD in semiconductor physics.
Yep.
My current role at the IPO, I've been there for it'll be 3 years in March, and I'm currently a patent examiner.
3 years. I bet it's flown by, has it?
It really has, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're enjoying it. Love it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, as we'll touch upon it later, but as kind of already been mentioned, the ability to kind of work day to day on technical subject matter in that kind of more commercial environment is something I find really interesting.
Yeah. And for the audience listening as well, Sophie is a massive advocate of the IPO industry. If we've got any questions, we all come to Sophie, or any other employers about the IPO. Yeah, it's all about Sophie. So she's really pushed it on Gradcracker, and we're all aware of it now. And it just sounds like such an amazing career. So yeah, can't wait to hear more about it. So Joe, sticking with you a second. So you joined, I said, 3 years ago. And what kind of the different things have you been working on, the different patterns that you've been working on so far since you've joined?
Yeah, so I have been in the same group since I've joined. So the group that I joined with mainly deal with engines, so that can be combustion engines, gas turbine engines, exhaust systems, pumps, turbines. We also deal with there's an adjacent little bit that we deal with kitchen equipment and kitchen.
Okay, that sounds a bit random, but
it is a little bit random with the other stuff in the group, but yeah, so we look at that as well. So yeah, I've covered everything from wind turbines to vacuum pumps. It's kind of it's quite a wide range of stuff that I look at, even though I'm in one group.
Yeah. And again, I think that's what's so nice about the industry, isn't it? You're getting that broad spectrum, still quite within an industry, but yeah, and it's at the forefront of technology as well, which is amazing. So Joe, we will come back to you, but I'm going to come to Will just to get you introduced, Will. Similar kind of questions, if that's okay. So where did you go to university and what did you study?
So I went to Loughborough and I did physics, just 3 years. Couldn't quite hack it out for a full 8. That felt like a little bit too much for me. And then I joined the IPO last year, so I've been I've just passed my 1 year mark, so still fairly new, fairly fresh faced. But loving it so far. And I started work on optics was sort of mainly my subject area. So anything with lenses. I looked at microscopes. I looked at VR goggles, heads-up displays, cameras, all sorts of things like that. And then after doing that for 6 months, I swapped to telecoms. So bit of a change. Again, noticing the variety of stuff we can look at. And I look at all sorts of wireless communication, 5G, 6G, encryption. I do a lot of encryption, so sort of things like that. And it's all fascinating so far. I'm loving it.
Oh, good stuff. And Will, so go back. So you mentioned you came in on optics. So was that something when you were applying to the IPO that you were interested in, or was it kind of part of the recruitment process that they kind of said, this is the area that we think you'll be good at? How did that work?
I think it was vaguely based on what I knew. So a degree in physics, I didn't have any specific focus for something where I needed to go. And when I joined, there was high demand for optics. They needed someone to be trained in that area. So that's sort of what I did at first. and then it was pretty open to me to choose if I wanted to do more of the same, or if I wanted to change subject matter, or what I wanted to work on. I had a bit of a choice there. So I thought the encryption stuff, that's always interested me. I don't know masses about it, but I was like willing to learn and thought that would be something I'd like. So I moved to that.
And that is a fantastic attitude to have. And I think Dom and Claire, you know, when you're bringing in this new talent, really, that's the attitude to have, isn't it? Just that willingness to learn, wanting that hunger. So yeah, again, the students that are listening, you know, take note of that, because this is what I think Dom and Claire would like to see. Claire, I'm going to come to you next. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you could tell us where you went to university and what did you study and all that kind of thing as well, and why IPO for you?
Yeah, no worries. So I spent 7 years at Cardiff Uni. So I've got a chemistry degree, and then I've got a PhD in colloid and interface science. So yeah, my thesis was on like the rheology of carbon black and how it's used in printed inks.
Right.
So I've been a group head. So I joined the office as a career changer in 2016. I did various few things before I joined the office. I was an academic, and I also ran a company of my own. But I started as associate patent examiner, and I love the job from day one, genuinely. I worked in the process chemistry group, and I worked on patents like catalysts, chemical reactors, batteries. So essentially anything industrial chemistry process-wise.
And sorry, how long did you say you've been here for now?
So I've been in the office just over 9 years.
How would you say, again, I said I wasn't going to do this, didn't I? I'm not going to throw any curveball questions, but just over those 9 years, Claire, how do you feel as though it's changed and how technology's changed? Are you seeing it changing rapidly now?
With AI, yeah, that's the big thing.
I was going to ask about AI.
Yeah, that's the big thing at the moment. So technology is changing. So we don't get as many applications for sort of combustion engines. It's more turning into batteries for electric cars. So yeah, basically we don't get like cathode ray tube TV applications anymore. It's like everything's changing, isn't it? It's a changing world. But the examiners are so adaptable, they change with it. So their specialism, and because they've got that technical training, their brain can just adapt to the new technology as well. So yeah, it's changed, but examiners are still as good as they always were.
Of course. And what an amazing brain to have, and to have all that back knowledge as well. Like, you know, you're almost growing these individuals, which I've just got all this knowledge. This is incredible. So yeah, you mentioned about your history as well. What does your kind of career progression look at like the IPO? You know, could you imagine yourself being there for another 9 years?
For me, yeah. I'm not moving unless they kick me out. Definitely not. No, I love it. It's so family friendly place to work. It's there's just so many pluses, like the flexible working. You get a really good like holidays and sick pay and all the benefits that you kind of dream of when you're little. You get it all here. It's such a nice place to work. Yeah, I don't see myself moving, and I really like the role I'm doing now as well. So if I can keep doing this, then that's great.
And that is what it's all about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Go to work and loving your job, be passionate about it. So Claire, I admire you for that. It's so nice to hear that. Will, I'm going to come to you because I want you to tell us a bit about the pattern examining projects that you've worked in so far, and how that's kind of gone for you over the last year.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, worked on a few different areas of technology, and I think in my first year it's all a little bit daunting because although I've got some of the technical skills, obviously, and I kind of know what I'm doing, the whole legal side of it is completely brand new.
That's a good point. Yeah.
A really nice thing about the IPO is for your first couple of years when you're an associate patent examiner, you have a direct line manager who basically checks everything you do. So there's quite a bit of sort of pressure on the patent as itself. You've got to grant something for the right reasons. That's this is legal support to someone's business, and that can be quite daunting. But the fact that you've got senior examiners checking what you do, making it all make sense, that's something that's really nice. And if you miss something because as Claire was saying, there are loads of different boxes that a patent has to tick. There are countless different things you've got to check for. So you sort of slowly build up your knowledge of. I know something that I found in telecoms where I work now. If there are a lot of quite complicated applications that I don't sort of quite understand how it's all working. Like I know the base and I know the theory, but it has to be explained in enough detail for someone else to perform the invention, if you like. And I think to begin with, I remember looking at some cases and thinking, oh, it doesn't quite make sense, but that's probably just me not understanding it. And I was a bit scared to raise any objections. And then my boss was like, no, look, you know what you're doing. If this doesn't make sense, it probably won't make sense to someone else trying to perform the invention. So just little things like that, you're sort of always learning, always being supported. And
Yeah, I love that, Will. And that's really nice. And again, nice for so many levels that you've got that support, someone backing you saying, actually, no, you do know it. And it's all right to say, actually, I'm not sure about this. And you've got that kind of network of people around you. How do you also manage, you've mentioned about the law side. Was that a bit daunting when you joined? Did it ever put you off thinking, how am I going to be able to learn everything I need to learn, juggle everything and do it as well as you can?
Yeah, I suppose it is a bit daunting, but I'd definitely say that the training here is amazing. Your first 2 months is just purely telling you what you need to know. You don't have to do any proper work, if you like. It's all just how the law works, how the patent process works. So the technical knowledge is much more important when you're applying, than the legal knowledge, because the legal knowledge you can get taught, you can learn, whereas the technical skills are obviously a lot rarer and a lot more in demand by the office.
So as a physics student, is there any particular technical skills that you showed off in your application that you think helped you to be successful, would you say?
I think I tried to show quite a wide range because I think I was part of the recruitment for telecoms and computing, and I hadn't done masses of specific telecoms and computing related things. But like I demonstrated a lot of projects, a lot of sort of learning opportunities I'd taken, willingness to sort of learn new stuff, ability to understand new things. And I think that was very sort of important in my application, very helpful, because even if you are, even if you're a complete expert on telecoms, I guarantee that within a few months, something will come across your desk that you haven't seen before, that you don't know how to. It's just the nature of the
job. Yeah.
There are just so many. So I think that ability to learn new stuff is very important.
Yeah, definitely. And we were saying a little bit about the training there. Can you pick training, Will? So say if you were ever in a situation, you think, oh, maybe I don't feel as confident in that area, or I need some additional training on that. Can you get kind of like ad hoc training as well as that kind of structured training?
Yes, you can. So obviously the first 7-8 weeks, that's all timetabled, that's all set, that's the same for everyone. But then throughout the year, there are loads of different training courses run, and they can be for the legal side or for the subject matter as well. I went on a 2-day course that was sort of new telecoms stuff that all the telecoms examiners were sort of trained on, so they ran that. And then there are loads of sort of sessions on the legal side, deep dives into specific bits of case law or anything like that. So yeah, there's definitely lots of learning opportunities and training you can do.
And Will, how many? Go on, Seth.
Sorry, Jess. I was just going to jump in, Will. Do you have to do any sort of formal qualifications whilst you're training as well, or is it very much, on the job learning as you kind of do?
Yeah, just on the job. There is no sort of formal qualification during the training.
That's good to know.
I'm chucking a lot of questions at you now, Will. My other thought was, how many applications are you working on at any given time? Is it normally one, or could you have multiple come in?
Yes. So it tends to be easiest to just work on one thing at a time, so you're focused on it and you're not getting confused between applications, especially if they're sort of similar subject matter. But then you'll also get, as well as just the original filed searches and exams, you'll get amendments. So after you send out a report saying, no, sorry, I can't grant this patent for whatever reason, the applicants will then come back and argue to you. So you often have a couple of amendments sort of on the go, if you like, at the same time. But typically it's easiest just to focus on one application at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Thank you, Will. Joe, I'm going to bring you here because I want to talk about, again, the different patterns that you typically see in your world, with it being slightly different area to Will. So yeah, tell us a little about what your kind of day-to-day and the patterns you're working on.
Yeah, so like I say, the group that I'm in generally is engines, turbines, pumps, exhausts, that kind of stuff. I've kind of, I'll be honest, I kind of see a lot of different things within those areas as well. So not when you talk about like engines, it isn't just an engine. It might be a fuel injector. It might be a piston. It could be any kind of aspect of the engine as well that I'm looking at.
Okay.
Day to day, I think one of the cases I've worked on recently that I've recently granted, obviously, as Claire mentioned briefly, combustion engines have been around for a long time, and there's only so much that can, to some extent, be done. You see some pretty niche things sometimes as well, but we had a kind of an influx, probably early last year, of combustion engines that use hydrogen as the fuel source, as opposed to diesel or petrol or whatever. And so I was kind of working on this case that it was for just a combustion engine using hydrogen fuel, but it had all these different kind of parts that were related to one another, that kind of worked with one another to have effectively, they were trying to increase the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They were trying to maximize the mixture of the hydrogen fuel with the air that was going into the combustion chamber. And so they had all these different little features, and so you go away and you go and do your search, and it's quite a long claim when you look at all these features, and you find something that's relevant. So I found something that was cited, and they come back, and we kind of, I think Claire's touched on, we see a significant part of the life cycle of the patent. So like I said, we'll do the search, we'll do the examination. The applicant has the ability to then amend their application in light of the objections that we've made. And in this instance, they kind of, you never, sometimes you can kind of preempt what they're potentially going to put in for an amendment. A lot of the time you can't. And in this instance, they talked about specifically the kind of the type of injection in this for this engine. They were using a direct injection system, or they specified now through the amendment there was a direct injection system. And even though the document I had was effectively the exact same thing, it wasn't using direct injection. And there was a bit of an explanation there as to why. Once they put it in, I was kind of already aware that this probably wouldn't be relevant anymore, this document, because it's little things you've got to kind of think about, as I think Will mentioned, like what the skilled person is going to think about when they're reading this or looking at the citations. And although it might seem like a small thing, like just changing the direction, the injection type, so direct or indirect or in a pre-chamber, it actually has quite a lot of ramifications on how you would interpret the build of that engine, or the build of the different components within that engine. And so ultimately I came to the conclusion that the incorporation of this particular feature meant that the documents I had were no longer relevant. So it's I guess that what I'm trying to say there is that you kind of, one of the things I particularly enjoy about it is, sometimes you'll know kind of where it's going, the application, but other times you can't necessarily foresee where it goes, and it makes you think about it perhaps in a slightly different way as well. But yeah, that's kind of
So when you do get the applicants, like I said, coming back with feedback, changing a few things, whatever, can you ever give your advice back and say, well, actually, I would recommend this, or I'd recommend that? Or have you got to completely stay unbiased and cannot suggest anything?
Generally speaking, we're completely impartial. Our job is basically, I suppose one way of looking at it is we provide the objections, and sometimes those objections will kind of point in a certain direction as to where they could go. Like I said, that doesn't always kind of go that way, and they can kind of work around it in different ways that are equally as valid. But yeah, generally speaking, we don't kind of point them in a direction. We're just there to kind of point out the deficiencies, and they can work out how best to
Yeah, that's their job to do that bit.
Yeah.
Do you have like returning customers, Joe? I was just thinking about, some of the things that you've said. Do you have maybe some of the big manufacturers that you kind of work with quite often that maybe come to, and then you might have maybe an SME or a sole trader that's come up with an idea. You're working with different kind of applicants all the time.
Yeah, it could be literally. So I have stuff from Rolls-Royce, McLaren.
Yeah.
But equally, like, then it's not unusual to get, as you say, SMEs or private applicants as well. We have a private applicant unit that specializes in dealing with private applicants, but in instances where they're well put together, the application, they'll come to us as well. So I will, on any given time when I'm picking out a case, it could be from like a massive automotive company, or it could just be a private applicant.
Yeah. So variety all the time.
Yep.
And do you speak to them a lot? Is that quite a part of your day to day, or would you say you kind of just get it in and then you don't really speak to them until you have your feedback?
It can depend, honestly. I would say the most common form of communication is through the reports and the letters that we get back. But that doesn't, it's not unusual at some point. Sometimes there might be just, it's easier to just call up the agent, or they call us just to clarify certain issues. And I think that is a perfectly valid way of kind of progressing the application as well. Any kind of more, any actual changes are always kind of done through written word, through reports or letters.
That's it.
But we will. It's not unusual to have telephone calls with the applicants, just kind of work out certain kind of situations and move forward to some extent. Yeah.
So it's been a year since me and you last spoke. So what would you say you've achieved over the last year? What would you say kind of has been either a big personal achievement in your career, or maybe a project that you've worked on, you think, oh, I've enjoyed that?
Yeah. So I've moved from obviously you joined as associate patent examiner. I went through the kind of promotion process, and I've been promoted to. It's just called patent examiner. There's no other name to it. It's just patent examiner. So yeah, that was great.
Well done.
Thank you. In terms of one thing actually that we haven't touched on too much actually is when you start, yes, 100%, almost all of your time will be learning the legal aspects of the job, getting up to speed with just doing the patent examiner role. But one of the things that you will kind of open up to as you kind of progress through the office, not necessarily progress promotion-wise, but just progress in time, you'll get the opportunity to do different projects that aren't explicitly patent examining related. I've been involved in different bits and pieces in my 3 years that have been to do with helping with recruitment, that have been to do with.
Oh, have you? Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's doing stuff like internally, like we've mentioned about the kind of in-house tools we have for a surgeon, doing little projects around that. One of the things that surprised me with the role, if I'm being honest, when I joined, was that kind of I was looking forward to just doing the patent examining, but is actually being able to do other things within the office. We're not, the IPO is quite a big place, and there's different departments that you can do secondments in eventually once you've kind of moved through the office a bit. You can get to experience all the different facets of the office if you choose, if you want to.
Yeah. So that's quite nice. You can dip in, dip out. You can get that change, get that variety as well, like recruitment. Probably never would have thought that you'd be involved in that, but yeah, it's great. You're getting that variety. So Claire, probably kind of leads me nicely onto you, because you are patent group head.
Yep.
So would you say technically a step up from patent examiner? I know what's happening. Would you say?
Technically, no, it's just a different role.
So tell us about being patent group head, really, and what that does entail.
Absolutely. So I became a group head about 2 years ago, and I for the human necessities group. So I've got a team of 17 examiners, and we deal with applications involving things like clothing, shoes, jewelry, computer games, printer cartridges, eclectic mix of stuff. So I don't actually examine patents myself anymore. I sometimes do miss it, to be fair. But yeah, I do. But I do love my job. So I lead and I motivate my team, basically.
Okay.
I can also act as an advisor, so I get involved in things like legal hearings. I do sort of like quality control, and as part of the senior leadership team, I like help set direction for office initiatives and things like that.
So what is the kind of typical route then for, Will, using you as like a little pawn individually in my game, for Will eventually to become like a Joe, and then where would Joe go next after that? Or what's kind of a typical graduate journey once they've trained?
Yeah, so I can talk you through that. That's no problem. So a typical route for a patent examiner, you start the office as an associate.
Yeah.
And then you like Will and Joe have mentioned, you have a line manager who looks at your work really closely, acts in sort of a mentoring capacity. And basically when you show that you're becoming independently proficient, so you can mostly do the job by yourself, but you know when to ask questions, so that sort of level, you then get promoted to an examiner, which Joe now is. And that can happen anywhere from 2 to 4 years after joining the office. And then once you're an examiner, then you continue to work on casework with less supervision than when you were an associate. And then when you sort of meet the bar for senior examiner, you can then progress to senior examiner. So the bar for senior examiner is sort of like having sort of that aptitude to be able to like line manage examiners, and being able to basically cope with like the majority of the casework by yourself. And nobody's ever by themselves because they've always got colleagues they can ask. But what I'm saying, if you're on your own, you could do like 99% of the role, and nothing's going to cause you any problems. And that, to get to senior examiner, that typically takes anywhere from sort of like 6 to 9 years. 6 is pretty quickly, and sort of 7, 8 is average-ish. 9, well, even 9 is average these days. So that route from associate examiner all the way to senior examiner is non-competitive. So you get there when you're ready. So you don't have to compete with your colleagues. You get there when you're ready, which is really nice. So just when you can demonstrate you're working at the right grade. If you're a senior examiner and you want to try something a bit different that involves a bit more people management, that's where like my role comes in, so group head role. That is a competitive role. But we have got quite a lot of group heads. So we've currently got 23 group heads in the office. And there's about 400 patent examiners, so they're all split between those 23 groups.
Okay, so right, big. So, Joe, I'm going to come to you about the next kind of thing I want to discuss was the kind of social side again, because you're all working together. You're all constantly asking each other for advice. In the office. As Dom mentioned, roughly 4 to 5 days a week, whatever. What's the environment like? What's the culture like? Are you going out and doing things? Are you all kind of socializing as well as working closely together?
Yeah, I think Dom mentioned this is 80% when you start, and then it's 20% of sense from that point on. But from a social aspect, I mean, when we're in the office, I can speak for my group, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for most groups. We always have at least one group day in the office a month, and it gives us a chance to kind of see each other face to face. But it's not unusual for just us to have like a Teams meeting, and just catch up, ask some questions, or just see how everyone's getting on. Just generally. From my actual other social things, actually, there's a lot of little societies, clubs. I don't know what necessarily call them, but we have loads of that in the IPO. So we have a 5-a-side kind of event, weekly event thing. You can just drop in, drop out. We're currently the Office of National Statistics is like right next to us, and so we have like netball clubs with them, and touch rugby, all those different things with sports. But we also have like a book club, which I think is more an online thing. I think they start in a golf society.
Oh, cool, nice.
If you like that. We also have I think it's called the recreation room. That's my understanding. That's what I would call it. Where basically that is just a social space where we have dartboards, we have beanbags, chairs, table tennis table, just somewhere you can go and just take a step away from work for a little bit to talk to your colleagues. Yeah. Which I think, to be honest, is something that is another aspect of when you're in the office so much at the start when you're training. It's a fairly typically large kind of cohort that joins, and it gives you, the spaces like that will give a great opportunity just to get you to know who you've joined with and build up kind of working relationships from day one.
Yeah, perfect. That's nice. And Will, do you have that? Do you have kind of your cohort that you joined with? Do you kind of liaise with them a lot now? And
yeah, definitely. But it's also nice, as I've been there a bit longer now, you sort of get to know more people. So obviously when we just joined, I go for lunch every day with the people in the cohort. Don't really know anyone else. Don't really speak to anyone else. Sort of spend all your time with them. But now, like as Joe was saying, I play in the five-a-side football once a week, so I know all the people who go to that. You know everyone in your group, of course. So like all the examiners are split into groups, so you can see all of them. And then people you've worked on projects together with. It's really nice to sort of grow the community of people when you're in the office. So like as much as I still speak to all the cohort I joined with, and I'm all still friends with them. It's nice to get to know more people, just like bumping into people and saying hello. Oh, I did some work with you. Yeah, that sort of thing. So it's really nice to sort of cultivate that.
Yeah. And Will, did you have to relocate for this role?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I perhaps wasn't quite as organised as I should have been.
That's good. Let's be honest. Yeah.
So, for the 7 or 8 weeks training at the beginning, that's all in the office every day. So I live about 2.5 I come from about 2.5 hours away from Newport, so it's a little bit much to get there every day for a 2-week job. So I think it was the week before I was supposed to start work, I was looking around people letting out rooms in Cardiff. I remember I went down, I had a little list on my notes app on my phone, and I was like, right, book as many viewings as I can. I've got to say yes to one of these. So that was probably a little bit of undue stress before I started my new job, but it worked out in the end. Found somewhere nice. So yeah, I'd advise being a little bit more organised and having
a little bit organised.
So do you live in Cardiff? Yeah.
Yes. So it's about, depending on traffic, anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour to drive to the office. So that's all good. And yes, a very nice place to live. Lots going on. Lots of students in Cardiff, so it's still quite busy if you want to go out and do things like that. It's very lively. I come from a little village in the middle of nowhere, so it's quite a nice change to live in a big city. So yeah, it's very good.
Oh, lovely. I love that. And yeah, good message to all. Get organised. Don't leave it last minute. By the sounds of it, you were lucky there, Will. Imagine if you were like, oh yeah, can't find anywhere.
Yeah, I was very close to staying in a Holiday Inn for the 8-week training course. So.
Yeah, oh gosh. I love the honesty and thank you for that. Claire, I'm going to come to you. We've talked a lot about training and development for the graduates. But yeah, is there anything anything in particular you maybe want to add to that? Maybe projects, networking groups, or anything that students can get involved in?
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, all of us, I think, have mentioned that you need a STEM degree to join the office. And then you get your legal training whilst you're in the office. So Will was perfectly right in saying that there was no sort of formal qualifications as an associate patent examiner, but you will, if you want to get to a senior examiner grade, you will have to complete a postgraduate certificate or a diploma or a master's if you want to go a bit further in intellectual property law, to be able to demonstrate the wider IP knowledge. It's mainly, so the training development is mainly like Will and Joe have mentioned, it's on the job. A lot of on the job. Once the first 7 weeks are out of the way and the structured training is done, it's more on the job learning. And you get to attend seminars, and there's loads of internal training courses. the office with the postgraduate certificate in IP, or the diploma or the masters, and the office will give you like study time. It gives you time, time for attending your lectures, and some time for writing up your sort of like your essays and things like that. With regards to projects and networks, oh crikey, the list is massive. We've got a search and advisory team, so you can get involved in things like that. We've got a legal team, a policy team, a private applicant unit, a training team, if you like, delivering training seminars. We've got the trade union, we got the STEM outreach team. As for networks, we've got like a parents network. So again, I'm going to reiterate that it is such a family-friendly employer. It's a really great place to work if you're a parent. We've got accessibility networks, coaching networks, iPride networks. Genuinely, we got so much, I can't remember all of them.
Yeah, that's nice though. Again, it gives you an insight into, like you say, just so accommodating, so friendly, willing to help, and I think it just feels like such a lovely environment. So Soph, I'm going to hand back to you on this point, because we want to find out from you guys and Dom how we can get the role at the IPO.
Thank you very much, Jess. Yeah, and thank you, everyone. It's always so lovely hearing about your experiences so far and what life is like at the IPO, and kind of bringing that veil up, because I think sometimes people look at government organisations and think, oh, what's that actually going to be like day to day? And whenever we talk to you guys, we just know that it's such a lovely place to work. And I think that really really highlight it again today. And I really like as well what you were saying just then, Claire, about the training. The first few years is very much about on the job. You're going to learn everything you need to know here, and then you've got the opportunity as you progress to do those additional postgraduate qualifications if you choose to. And I think that's a really nice way around of getting that full grounding before then kind of doing the additional academic side. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your explanations. So Dom, yes, I'm coming over to you now. So we're going to talk about how to get the job at the IPO. So as we've mentioned, you've got your 3 roles live on the hub on Gradcracker right now. So when the students click on the application button from Gradcracker, what happens next?
Yeah, so the link on Gradcracker will take you to the civil service jobs page. From there, you just need to set up an account with civil service jobs. You hit apply now, which is at both the top and bottom of the advert. And that will take you to a form where you complete the initial eligibility questions, things like right to work in the UK, your basic personal information, and also diversity monitoring information. So you submit that stage. Then you'll be invited to complete what's called a verbal test. And although that might sound daunting, it's simply designed to assess your ability to identify relevant information and draw logical conclusions from written material. And most candidates take around an hour to complete that. If the test were to time out for inactivity, you can just email our recruitment team. Our recruitment team, all their contact details on the advert, and they're very, very responsive. You should get a response within the same day. So yeah, they can help and they can reset that. And I can't recommend enough that you take the practical test first. So when you receive the link for the actual test, there should also be a link to a practical test. So take the practical test first, just to get an understanding of the type of questions and how you're going to go about that. And there should also be some guidance to read around the test. So all of that makes a big difference. So you're back to the test. Once you've submitted your test, you'll receive results back for that, which is quite quick. If you pass, you're then invited to complete a full application, and this will include your personal statement, which is assessed against what's called the Civil Service Success Profiles framework. And there's lots and lots you can read about that online. But I would say that the most important thing really to remember is when you're writing your personal statement, do structure it around the essential criteria which is listed in the job advert. So don't freestyle the statement. Make sure you are addressing the essential criteria. What's really good about civil service applications is that we're very transparent in the criteria you're being assessed against. So as long as you try and hit that essential criteria, you should be in the right direction. Also, I mean, we call them job adverts, but they're more than job adverts. Like our job adverts, you'll see there's lots of information in there, and a lot of the information there is there to help you. So it's not just advertising a role. It tells you, what you're being assessed against. It will tell you about the whole interview process and selection process from that point onwards. And there's lots of important and useful links in there. So there'll be like links that will take you to more information on success profiles and civil service behaviours. And actually, a really important tip as well: the job adverts, once the job expires, they will be taken down from the website. So I would highly recommend saving those job adverts so you can refer to them even once the advert is closed. And you do that just by right-clicking on the advert. For some reason, you have to hit print, and then you'll have the option to save as a PDF. But that's really good because then you can refer back to the advert even once you've already applied and it's closed. There's no real advantage to applying early as well, but just make sure that you have applied by the deadline. So applicants, they can't be considered after the deadline, but you don't need to rush your application. You do have till the deadline to apply. And I think, that's all the key advice I would give, really.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Dom. Yeah, and I think it's interesting everything you've just said, because I was actually doing a presentation to Brunel University yesterday, and I was going through one of the IPO roles, and I was saying this is the essential criteria. This is how you show them that you have that essential criteria in the process. And it's great that you've just kind of reiterated that, because it's so important. The job descriptions are written for a reason, to tell the applicant what they need and what they need to tell you. And then just to point on what you were saying about saving the job as well, Dom. I mean, we have the shortlist feature on Gradcracker. So anyone on Gradcracker that's going to apply to the IPO roles, save them to your shortlist. When it comes down from Gradcracker and the IPO, it will be saved all the way through for you to use in that process. So yeah, we had, it's a great feature to make sure the students can keep on top of that and keep the job descriptions throughout the recruitment process. Do you have a stance on candidates using, or any thoughts or advice you'd give around generative AI in writing their personal statement or any sort of application answers, Dom?
Yeah, so we do allow you to use AI as a tool to assist with your application. So that's completely fine. But the main advice I would give with AI is that I find sometimes it's like people have taken the essential criteria, put that into AI and say, can you write me a personal statement based around this? The problem there is that AI really just rearranges the essential criteria to say, I have this experience, but it doesn't really say where you have that experience or give any kind of nuance or context to it. So it's really important, because the problem with that is that a lot of, and this is increasingly so, a lot of personal statements we receive are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And like I say, they don't really say much. They just regurgitate the essential criteria back to us. So the most important thing is, if you are using AI, to at least give the AI, context and real life examples from your research or your work at university, and give some flavor to it. What worked well, what didn't work so well. Like opinions, and so give it that flavor. But yeah, using AI especially to help with like grammar and sentence structure, that's perfectly fine.
But you want to hear personal experiences, don't you? Not just what AI wants you to hear. Yeah. Jess, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, no, just talking about like the presentations and stuff that we do, and Sophie's mentioned hers yesterday with Brunel, and yeah, I've done similar ones. And something I always talk about in my presentations is the STAR method. So situation, task, action, result. So, if Dom's looking for someone who's, for example, a good problem solver, think of an example that you've been in. What was the situation? What was the task? What was the action result? It's all right just to write, it's not all right just to write, I'm a good problem solver. Dom wants to know why, give an example of, what have you been doing? So yeah, I always think the STAR method is quite a good one to remind you with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we've got a couple of student questions now that have been submitted in advance of today. So the first one is from Muaz from Cardiff University, who asks, what makes an applicant stand out when they're being recruited? And how easy is it to go from MSc into patent rather than a PhD into patent? And that's to you, Dom.
Yes, in terms of standing out, I'd say clear, well-structured examples that show how you solve problems, that demonstrate strong analytical thinking and the ability to explain technical ideas simply, and also showing a genuine interest in innovation, and the role of an examiner goes a long way as well. And in terms of masters versus PhD, so a master's is absolutely fine. You don't need to have completed a PhD necessarily. We have hired examiners from both routes, and what matters most is again that analytical ability and how well you demonstrate those skills in the application.
Yeah. Absolutely. And obviously we have Will on the call today who's not done a master's or a PhD and is successful and has come through the process. You don't have to have those additional skills. I think it's a bit of a misconception, isn't it, when it comes to sort of patent examining and patent attorneys, that you need that MSc or PhD. But that is not the case, as we have real life evidence right here in front of us. So thank you very much for that, Dom. And our second question is from Isabella, also from Cardiff University. We've obviously got a big audience from Cardiff in today. And what kind of work experience would you recommend that stands out to employers, Dom?
So anything that builds transferable skills, so analysing information, problem solving, communicating clearly, and working with technical concepts. So it doesn't have to be IP related. So as we've said earlier, we really teach the intellectual property law side of things. So it's those other technical skills that we're really looking for. So internships, any research projects you've worked on, part-time jobs, volunteering. All of these can be used to demonstrate your skills. Even like hackathons, society roles. So anything that shows you applying STEM skills to a real world example is really valuable.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Dom. And just going back to kind of one of your earlier points then about, reiterating why you want to be an examiner. The IPO Company Hub on Gradcracker, we have got loads of information about what actually life as a patent examiner is like. If you haven't got enough information for this webinar, because we've had obviously really good examples, but there's loads of info out there that you can research in advance. I would highly recommend that you do. So thank you very much, Dom. I'm going to come over to Joe and Will just to get some insider tips as well. So Joe, tell us more about how you prepared for interviewing with the IPO.
Yeah. So first, I'd say I think Dom basically nailed everything in terms of like the general preparation for it. I think when it comes to the actual interview itself, as it's kind of already been established, we want to see that you can analyze technical information critically and efficiently, and that you understand that you are able to work with technical documents on a day-to-day basis. And articulating that in an interview is very important. I think sometimes we are very good in STEM at being able to critically analyze stuff in our head or maybe writing it down, but verbalizing that in an interview context is a slightly different thing. So I would definitely recommend, even if it's just talking to someone about your project, just getting them to say what was your project about, how do you do it, how do you do this, and even if they have no idea what you're talking about as your answer, just verbalizing it in preparation I think is really important, because as you say, it's one thing being able to think about it in real time, this technical information, or being able to write it down, but it's another thing altogether being able to then verbalize what you've done and how you've come to that conclusion.
That's really good advice, and I think something that a lot of students probably wouldn't have thought about doing in advance of an interview, but that's really good advice. As you've been this is a kind of an off-piece question here, Joe. As you've kind of been involved in recruiting a little bit, have you done any interviews yourself?
No. So I haven't done any interviews in that context. I've done outreach generally.
Okay, I see.
But I mean, I have we do like tours of the building and stuff during the interview process and had chats with people there. Like I say, it's what we're ultimately looking for is people who can take their transferable skills that you pick up, kind of as we've already established. You don't need a PhD or a master's. Through your undergraduate, on a day-to-day basis, you are having to, if you've got a piece of coursework, you have to read that, the assignment outline critically, get it done before the deadline, and to do that, you have to go away and research the problem, work out how you're going to overcome it, and that is literally the job, kind of in a nutshell. So you're already doing a lot of developing the skills on a day-to-day basis just by doing your degree.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Joe. And Will, what advice would you give to our audience when they're kind of thinking about putting their application together for the IPO and then preparing to attend the interviews?
So I think while sort of making it clear that you do have the specialist skills, you do have a knowledge, you do sort of know, you do have the technical background necessary. It's also like really, really important, as Joe and Don were both saying, to say how you can apply your sort of your skills and how you can use that to sort of learn new things, because you are going to come across new material, you are going to have to understand it quickly. And I think real concrete examples of where sort of in a short time frame you've understood something new, broken it down, figured out how it works, done something to improve it, done some work on it, that's something that's really, really useful. And I mean, I don't know if I haven't done much in the recruitment process, so I've only really got my own application to go on, but I didn't shy away from using examples outside of STEM, because I think that's something that can sort of, real world examples can be a little bit more useful, because everybody applying will have a STEM degree, everybody applying will have gone through university and done projects, and while of course they're brilliant, you want to hear about them, it's also sort of doing it in the real world that's helpful. So if you I remember in mine, I grew up and lived on a farm before I moved, and I sort of talked about how me and my dad had made this one-way cattle handling system, and we sort of had all these like fancy gates going on. Maybe it was completely useless. Don't take this as granted, but I think it's important to sort of show a real-life application of your skills, because that's what you're going to need in the workplace.
I love that. I love that. That's great. And I bet that did make your application stand out. And you've obviously been successful. So obviously you were doing something right there, Will. Thank you very much. And Dom, just finally, do you have any sort of last hints and tips that you want to give the audience?
I think so. Remember the STAR technique, particularly when you're doing civil service behaviour questions. So with civil service behaviours, we have categories like developing self and others is one, working together is one. When you're answering those questions is where you're really meant to use the STAR technique. So not so much in your personal statement, like you're quite limited with word count there, and you won't be able to do situation, task, action, result for every bullet point in the essential criteria. So yeah, remember your STAR technique for behaviors, and with the personal statement, just make sure you're addressing the essential criteria. That's probably the main advice I would give. One more thing in the interview as well. Remember, if you have like technical questions, remember to show your work in. That's really, really important. Don't just give the answer. We want to see like, how did you get to your answer? And even if your answer is wrong, if you can see that your working out was along the right lines, you might still pick up some marks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Make sure you kind of think out loud, because it is about how you kind of figure stuff out. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Dom. Thank you, everyone. As always, it's wonderful speaking to you guys at the IPO, and really great insight into what life is like and the role of a pattern examiner. So the recording of this webinar will be available for everyone to watch in full tomorrow on the IPO Gradcracker Company Hub. As I've mentioned, there's loads and loads of information on there to help you with your applications as well. After we've got the full webinar live, we'll also break this up into bite-sized highlights covering some of the key topics that we've discussed today. And remember that our employers absolutely love it when you tell them that you've watched their webinar, as they know that means you'll already have a really good understanding of their organisation and shows you have a real interest in working for them. So make sure you go and get your applications in for the IPO and let them know that you were here. That's it for this season of the Gradcracker webinars. We will be back in September with some more amazing guests. But thank you to everyone who's joined our webinar today and throughout this season, and to all of the amazing employers who we have had the pleasure of speaking to. For those of you watching that are graduating this year, best of luck for the future. And some of you may even be panelists on a Gradcracker webinar next year. So we look forward to seeing everyone else again in the autumn. And thanks again to the IPO. Bye-bye.
Guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.